I was born in Burlington, Vermont, a simple provincial girl who dreamed of a great love. I was 28 when I married Owen, a confident, handsome man 7 years my senior. He lived in Boston, worked in logistics, and showered me with attention from day one. Everyone said, "She's lucky, a dream husband." I thought so too back then. We had a summer wedding. In a white lace dress with a high collar, bare arms, modest earrings, and heels, I felt like a true bride. Then came our wedding night, which I will remember forever. Not because of tenderness, but because of the pain. "Owen, maybe a break?" I stammered when the clock struck around 2 a.m. We had started at 9 p.m., and he still couldn't stop. "A break? We've just started," he smirked, ignoring my state. It wasn't passion. It was like a maniacal obsession. He seemed to be testing me for endurance, for submission. I lay there like a doll in the lacy nightgown my mother gave me. My skin was burning, my hair was matted with sticky strands, and my body was trembling, not from desire, but from exhaustion. I couldn't say no, as if I were afraid of ruining his mood. He had been kind before the marriage, but now it was as if someone had ripped a mask off him. In the morning, I couldn't stand up. My thighs ached, my stomach cramped, and my eyes were full of tears. He, however, cheerfully made breakfast and joked, "Today will be even better. It is our honeymoon after all." We went on a week-long vacation to the Adirondacks. A lodge with mountain views, pine air, a wooden cottage. But I barely saw the view or the scenery. Everything happened inside the room. He didn't let me out from under the covers. 5, 7 times a day. With each time, I felt myself disappearing. My strength drained away, my body wouldn't obey, and fear swelled in my soul. On the third day, I nearly passed out in the shower. "Olivia, you're so pale. Are you sick?" "No, just tired." I didn't know how to ask him to stop. How to explain that even my favorite blue linen dress with the waist belt hung uselessly. That I hadn't even washed my hair for 3 days? He didn't notice, or pretended not to notice. "It's all because of love, you see," he repeated. "We're young, when else if not now?" On the fourth day, I suggested we go hiking in the mountains. He waved me off. "Later. Right now, I need you more than any view." I cried silently into my pillow at night, because complaining that your husband desires you too much is shameful and unacceptable. You can't tell your friends, they'd laugh. "You're so lucky." On the seventh day, I broke. I asked him not to touch me. He got offended, went out onto the balcony to smoke. He said I was frigid and not ready for real married life. We returned home, and I hoped things would calm down. But it only got worse. He would come home from work and say, "Olivia, it's time to make love." I found myself trapped again, in my own home, in a cozy nightgown, with my hair tied up and my hands shaking. I didn't have a choice. He demanded, he didn't ask, and I submitted. A month after the wedding, I was back at work at the pharmacy near the Central Market. Colleagues noticed I had lost weight and started asking questions. I joked it off. "It's all the romance, no time for food." But every day, I dreaded the evening because Owen's return home meant one thing. I had to fulfill my duty again. He never asked if I wanted it. He just acted according to schedule. "Just one time, my little star, I missed you." And an hour later, "Come on, just one more time. You're so beautiful." It was a constant cycle. He ignored my protests, and when I cried, he said tears excited him even more. I felt like I wasn't a wife but an object. A broken doll in bare pajamas, who no longer knew where her body ended. He especially loved it when I wore something innocent. A white tank top, shorts, socks with ruffles. His fetish, as he called it. At first, I laughed. Then, I fell silent forever, because those details became part of the humiliation. It was a form of control, not play. With every passing day, I felt something breaking inside. I started to fear being touched. At one point, I couldn't sleep peacefully next to him. I felt like even his breathing was a threat. I tried talking, cautiously, almost whispering. "Owen, maybe we can take a break, even for just a few days?" "What? Are you cheating on me? Why suddenly don't you want to?" He was convinced that any pause was a betrayal, that I was obligated, period. In the second month, I started experiencing pain during urination. and a pulling sensation in my lower abdomen. I went to the gynecologist. The diagnosis: cystitis due to physical overexertion. The doctor asked directly, "Are your sexual encounters too frequent?" I blushed and lied. "No, I just must have caught a chill." But I knew deep down, it wasn't just an illness, it was my body screaming. I took medical leave. Told my husband the doctor strictly forbade intimacy for at least 2 weeks. He didn't believe me at first, then became resentful. He walked around with a sour face, slammed doors, and said I was ruining our marriage. To avoid being alone with him, I started going to my mother's in Burlington on weekends. I hid behind excuses. "Mom isn't feeling well. I need to help her in the garden. The neighbor is fixing the roof." There, in the old peeling house, I could sleep peacefully, wrapped in my grandmother's blanket, without the fear of being touched at night. But every return home felt like returning to a war zone. Once, when I said I was tired and didn't want to, he hovered over me and whispered, "You're lucky. You have a husband like me, and you're being difficult." In that moment, I felt genuine disgust toward him. A real, deep aversion from my fingertips to my scalp. I didn't know where to turn. Divorce? The gossip in Burlington would last for years, and my mother would burst into tears. "You just got married. Just be patient." So I decided to act differently. In secret. First, the diet. I started researching which foods reduce male libido. I bought magazines and scoured forums. I learned that soy, broccoli, mint, and rosehip tea are not friends to male desire. Garlic, red meat, and ginseng, on the other hand, stimulate it. So I had to change the entire menu. What, lentil soup again? Owen grumbled unhappily. "It's a diet," I smiled. "For your circulation. You said your back hurt. I'm trying to help you, no salt, no fat." He ate with the expression of a martyr, but didn't complain. And I quietly rejoiced every day he fell asleep before 9. Next, the routine. I bought him a gym membership. A gift for strengthening the marriage, I claimed. "What, do you think I'm fat?" No, working out together is just trendy. Look on Instagram." He scoffed but went. And after the workout, he would collapse with exhaustion. No evening attacks. I waited until he started snoring, covered myself with a blanket, and listened to music or read in headphones. Freedom. The next step was a medical maneuver. I went to a new, private doctor in Boston. I asked her to write a note strictly forbidding intimacy for at least a month. The doctor was surprised at first. "You have no clinical symptoms." I looked at him with such an expression that he simply nodded. "Fine. I understand." This note was a shield. I put it on the refrigerator so Owen would see it every time he opened the door for yogurt. He grumbled, tried to joke. "Maybe just a little?" But I shook my head, citing the doctor. Soon he changed. Not because he understood, but because he became suspicious. "You don't love me anymore. You have someone else." And I felt power for the first time. I smiled, looked out the window, and didn't answer. Let him think. Let him guess. Let him feel, for at least one evening, what it's like to wait and fear. Meanwhile, I started keeping a journal. Not on my phone, but in an old paper notebook. There I recorded everything. What he ate, how he behaved, how many times he asked, how I felt. On the cover I wrote in red ink, "Freedom Plan." Time passed. My plan worked perfectly. Almost a month without it. My skin was no longer pale. The dark circles under my eyes vanished. For the first time in a long time, I wore a fitted dress, cream-colored, with a belt and neat buttons. In it, I felt like a woman again, not a victim. Owen became agitated. He was like a caged animal. He often went into the bathroom with his phone, returning strangely satisfied. I pretended not to notice. But one evening, when he forgot his cell phone in the kitchen, it rang. I wasn't planning on spying, but a message popped up on the screen. Melanie Rose. Suspicion hit my chest. I opened the message. "Running late again today. Or will you have time to stop by? You were fire yesterday. Your bunny is happy. Kiss Mark." I felt sick. He was cheating on me. That same evening, I left to stay at my friend Kate's place. "Are you sure?" she asked, watching me wipe away tears. "Maybe it's just flirting?" "Kate, the messages are clear. It's not just flirting." I returned home the next morning with icy calm. In the kitchen, Owen was frying eggs as if nothing were wrong. "Good morning, my star. Sleep well." I nodded. "Wonderfully. Especially after finding out who Melanie is. You know, the one who is happy when you're fire. Or did you already forget?" His face darkened. "It's not what you think. We were just talking." Undressing, he realized he couldn't deny it. He yelled at first, then pleaded, then blamed me again. "You drove me to it. A month without sex. You're like an icicle." What was I supposed to do? Become a monk? I stayed silent because nothing hurt inside anymore. It was empty. My heart had shut down. The next day, I rented a room in an old house on the outskirts of town from Mrs. Petrova, an older woman who loved me like her own daughter from the moment we met. "Run, child. You need to live, not rot," she said as my trembling fingers signed the lease. That evening, I left Owen a letter without hysterics. Simply, "I tried but you didn't listen. You don't love, you consume. I am leaving. I hope one day you'll understand the difference." I closed the door behind me and, for the first time in a long time, felt not fear, but lightness, as if I had shed chains. I rented the room near Lake Winnipesaukee, a quiet New Hampshire town where everyone knew everyone else. There was no gossip about my marriage, no sideways glances, only the lake, the evening wind, and the infrequent buses to Boston. The first few weeks, I just lived. I read, ate, and slept under a warm blanket. Sometimes I visited the market and tried on vintage dresses. I bought a long gray coat, a warm sweater, and soft knitted socks. It seemed like nothing special, but for me it was luxury. Clothes that were comfortable for me, not for someone else. I got a job working at the pharmacy near the local train station. The people were simple and grateful. Many didn't remember my name, but they remembered that bright girl with kind eyes. That was me. A couple of months later, Owen texted me. "Are you alive? I'm sorry. I didn't know it was that serious." I didn't reply. A week later, "I'm going to therapy. I can't function. Everything is falling apart. I'm lost without you." Again, silence from my side. But one day, coming home from work, I heard a familiar voice. At the bus stop, where the local grandmothers gathered every evening, he was standing there. "Owen, do you really think it's that simple to just give up on everything?" he said quietly, his voice trembling. "Did you change me?" I stopped 3 feet away. He looked tired, older, harmless, empty. "I changed myself. And you?" "No," I said. "I was an idiot, sickly obsessed. I see it myself now." "So now what? Are you getting treatment?" "Yes. Therapy and medication. I have an addiction, it turns out. A diagnosis. Do you understand?" "I understand. But I'm not the cure. I'm a person." We didn't meet again, didn't text. The past was gone. 6 months passed. Spring arrived. A new man came to the market. His name was Arthur. He was a veterinarian. We started talking when he accidentally dropped a packet of bandages. I laughed. He did too. And it all started with that smile. Arthur wasn't just different. He was warm, respectful. Once he walked up behind me to hug me and paused. "May I?" I cried because no one had ever asked me that before. A few months later, I wore the blue dress and low heels for a walk with him by the shore. He held my hand, not tightly, not pulling. He simply held me close. We didn't talk about the past. He knew I carried not pain, but strength. And I knew this wasn't a fairy tale, not a chemical high, not passion that wore you out. This was love. And although our life together wasn't like the movies, I fell asleep every night knowing my body belonged only to me. And my yes was always voluntary.